The Fox Texas trio is back. Greg Grugan, you're first up to bat. Brian Harrison basically said that the GOP caucus is a social club and is pointless. Does the caucus lose its weight? Does it have any power heading into 2025?
Well, Stephen, I guess we're going to see. I mean, this whole censure is just a skirmish in the much larger civil war ripping up the Texas GOP. It's given the Republican zealots targeted a day or two in the news cycle, the demagogue, but it's only significant in that it reflects the bloody rift. Rudy may disagree, but I count 20 to 30 House Republicans who, by political inclination or personal loyalty, will stick with Dade Phelan's less radical conservatism as Speaker. And that's more than enough when combined with Democrats who, frankly, have nowhere else to go. Now, that said, I think there's some serious hubris going on within the Harrison and Toth and the rest. They are assuming the lion's share of Texas independents will continue to vote Republican, regardless of how many moderates they brand as rhinos and regardless of how restrictive their social agenda becomes. Of course, it certainly doesn't hurt the hard rights cause with the rank and file of the Texas voters when Democrats prominently feature drag queens at their state convention. Look, to each his own, but is that really a recipe for electoral success in the Lone Star State?
I think we're seeing both parties going to the extremes of their party beyond the primary scene. Rudy Koski, Representative Toth was quick to run to the saving of House GOP caucus chair Tom Oliverson, who is running against Dade Phelan for Speaker. Your thoughts on that?
Stephen, the action by the House GOP social club, which is why my word was clubbing, as Representative Harrison called his own caucus, was, only a slap on the wrist, and it came really as no surprise, right? The caucus was trapped by its own rules and at least showed a little political backbone in upholding Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment. It's worth noting some hardliners on the right would probably call the late president a rhino today. There is a stronger argument, Harrison's fake Republican slur, better suiting those who took money last year from a political group linked to a Nazi sympathizer, and to those pushing school vouchers, ESA plans, which in reality cut from the same political cloth as the guaranteed income plan being pushed by Democrats in Austin and Houston. As for his claim 500 Democrat bills getting some type of special treatment, wow. Here's the hard numbers on that. During the regular session last year, House members filed more than 8,000 bills. The Senate, 3,500 bills. Governor Abbott signing 1,100 bills, allowing 132 without a signature. And many were either sponsored or co-sponsored by Democrats. So did Governor Greg Abbott enable Democrat legislation, or were those bills just good ideas that had the votes to pass? Stephen?
Well said, Rudy, on that. A bit of fact-checking and stats. Greg, we are clearly seeing the lines being drawn in the sand. There are factions in the Republican Party. There are factions in the Democratic Party. Today we're talking about the Republicans. Will those factions mean that we're going to have multiple ballots? Is it going to be like the U.S. House electing a speaker?
Like I said, unless I'm totally missing something, Phelan has the votes unless there is a mass defection of his loyalists or unless Democrats withhold their support. It's kind of head-spinning how we got here. I can actually remember sitting in Steve Toth's office years ago and him telling me how he thought Phelan was a good guy and would be a really good speaker. Fair to say perspectives within the GOP have changed pretty radically since then, fueled by lots of West Texas oil money, Donald Trump, and Democratic opposition that's tacking further and harder to the left on just about everything. Not much of a choice for those who consider themselves independent pragmatists.
Rudy, quickly, you have the last word.
I think Greg's count is right. The numbers there are for Phelan, but I think the Trump conviction in New York has certainly flipped a lot of early expectations of what may happen in January. Depending on the fallout from the November general election, most political analysts believe there's going to be a lot of bitter payback coming to Democrats in red states like Texas and on Capitol Hill next year. But look, in 23, a Democrat takeover in the Texas State House, that didn't happen. And it's extremely doubtful it's going to happen in 2025. Harrison mentioned his 8 Republican priorities for 23. Well, by my count, all passed except for that House committee chairmanship banning on Democrats. So I'm not quite sure where his numbers are coming from.
To see this episode or any of our other ones, go to our station's YouTube channels.
And keep the conversation going on social media.
Join us next week as we tackle another hot topic. And remember, let us know what you think the issue is.